A lot of times that I've noticed there is a lot of reverence for these really awful mean girl characters in literature. We live in a society that constantly glorifies bullies, especially girls bullying other girls. What's up, y'all? This is Jessie on YouTube, and today we are going to be discussing Selena Gomez bully romances and the glorification of obsessive, toxic female-female relationships in books. We have a lot to talk about. Chances are, if you've been on the internet over the last week, you will have heard about the situation that Selena Gomez is enduring. She recently received a lot of hatred and criticism about her weight gain, causing her to come out and discuss her underlying medical condition. And as conversations about Selena Gomez and weight gain and what this means for celebrities in particular was taking place, Hailey Bieber uploaded a now deleted TikTok, which looks something like this.
I'm not saying she deserved it, but I'm saying God's timing is always right.
These two women have had a very tense, tumultuous relationship slash friendship, and because of that, people began to postulate that this TikTok was taking a dig at Selena Gomez for the bullying that she is receiving due to her weight gain. And this started a lot of conversations about social media obsession and stalking behavior, as well as a deep dive into Hailey Bieber's previous bullying behavior online. People have also excavated Hailey Bieber's history of racist tweets. Aren't you gonna say God bless you? She is so rude. Ew, did you just burp? Ew. They even went so far as to kind of make fun of Selena when she was talking about having accidentally over tinted her eyebrows. The more I researched Hailey and Selena's history, their relationship, and what is going on between them now, the more and more it caused me to think about the ways that this is reflected in the book community. For example, bully romances are one of the most popular romance tropes in the book community. It is definitely a buzzword. People absolutely love hate to love stories. We absolutely love bully romances. And a bully romance essentially is when one character in particular tough loves and picks on the other character until the two of them fall in love. And with the book community kind of being on the rise due to book talk and a bunch of bookish influencers experiencing higher views and higher subscriber counts the way that some makeup channel and gamer channels do, there's been more attention on the book community than ever, specifically a certain type of reader. If you spent any time on this channel, you will know that I absolutely love posing questions to y'all. I like hearing other people's perspectives, especially when my own is limited. This is very much outside of my sphere of expertise because, for example, I'm not a huge romance reader and I actually do not follow 90% of a celebrity anything. That being said, the idea of bully romances have always made me very, very uncomfortable because that is a very toxic way to start a relationship. My concern is that the bullying becomes romanticized and that it sends the wrong message. It sends the message of it is okay to essentially intimidate someone into submission, and then that is romantic. This person falling in love with you despite how mean you were to them, how much that they picked on you. Personally, as somebody who really struggles to connect with romance to begin with, that is a very difficult pill for me to swallow. Now, I have heard a lot of romance readers say things like it's okay because it is a fictional romance and romance books in general are not supposed to be realistic. So therefore it is okay to represent bully romances as romantic because we are in a very fictionalized idea of what romance is. That was one of the things that I heard in response to the last video that I published, the last sit-down video, where I talked about problematic books by Black authors. White readers are quick to tear those books and those authors to shreds. This book did not age well because you have thrillers that talk about these same kind of themes by white authors that are not getting thrown away. And I spoke about The Wedding Date by Jasmine Gilroy and how I didn't enjoy the lack of consent that took place in that book, specifically when Drew, the male love interest, was being very very rough in bed with Alexa, his female love interest. I was very uncomfortable and turned off and a little bit upset by the fact that he was doing very, very rough things in bed with her without asking if any of these things were okay or checking in with her afterward. And I had multiple people in the comment section who were avid readers of romance say that issues of consent in romance books is actually a little bit of a turnoff for them, and that avid readers of romance don't expect or even want their romances to be realistic in that way. So that is one of the questions that I want to pose to y'all as the audience. How do you feel about this? Do you think that it's okay in romance books to kind of depict a relationship that is otherwise toxic and problematic without really challenging that on the page simply because it is a fictional book? However, that is not what we're talking about in this video. The only reason I bring up bully romances is because it speaks to our obsession with toxic bonds. We find it incredibly difficult as a society to look away from relationships that are toxic and harmful and rife with obsession. We absolutely eat that shit up. In some ways, you can say that we as a society are obsessed with obsession. And in this video, I really want to interrogate why that is and what that exactly means for readers. I think in some ways, the obsession with bully romances and toxic relationships comes from the glorification of these relationships in movies and literature, and of course on social media. We absolutely love drama, and I am no different. I don't mean to imply that bully romances are the only kind of romance books that are being celebrated, because that is so far from the truth. But I will say I do notice that that is a big buzzword for a lot of people. And this is not to say that you should be ashamed if you enjoy bully romances. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. As I really started to dig deep into what Selena Gomez was experiencing, the criticisms of Hailey and her friends for social media stalking and character impersonation, I started to more critically analyze what this meant in terms of the book community's obsession with books like Bunny. Bunny is one of the most famous mean girl books out there. It takes place at an academic institution where our protagonist is a loner. She is not very popular, and she kind of scorns and looks down on this group of girls that are known as the bunnies. But that changes once the bunnies turn their attention on her and welcome her into the group as one of their own. It is definitely Midsommar cult vibes. It's very creepy. It talks a lot about what it means to be pulled into a group and to share a unilateral identity. It talks about female bonding and obsession. It has so many important themes that are worth dissecting. Another really good example of a book that fits into this trope is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala, which has a similar premise. And in The Honeys, we are following a gender fluid teen named Mars who goes to this Aspen Summer Academy camp in order to find out what happened to his twin sister, who came home from the camp and ended up dying in some self-inflicted violence. And so Mars's instinct is to judge and be very wary of these girls that are known as the Honeys. However, the more time that Mars starts to spend with these girls, the more that he begins to relate to them, the more the lines between himself and the girls start to vanish. He begins to experience hallucinations. It is one of the most hazy, culty, Midsommar mindfuck of a books that I have ever read. The body horror is absolutely incredible. I could write a dissertation on The Honeys. It is a truly amazing book. Now, these are just two examples of books that look at mean girl behavior and obsession with toxic female friendships and relationships. But there is an entire industry that is devoted to exploring those exact themes. You can look at Mean Girls, for example. Okay, can I have the ball or not? We're just gonna do this. We're just gonna do this. We're just gonna do this. There is also Jawbreaker, as well as, what was that movie? And potentially the most famous, The Heathers. I have not been shy about the fact that I experienced bullying, racialized bullying, when I was a kid and I was growing up. But what I don't think I have talked about so much on this channel was that I was absolutely in love with my bully, which potentially is why I'm so sensitive to bully romances to this day. She was one of my very first crushes. I was in love with her from like middle school to high school. And it was not until this situation with Selena Gomez happened that I started to sit down and really look at my obsession with toxic female-female relationships. For example, I have an entire shelf that is dedicated to books about obsession. If you have seen my bookshelf organizing video, you will know that I organize my bookshelves by vibe or feel or themes. And I write the theme on a card and I'll put that card in front of the book. So these are my obsession books, and sharing space on that shelf is books with a hazy, surreal feel, and also books that have dysfunctional or messy characters, because all of that fits together. I just really love self-interrogation. I love looking at why we like the things that we like. And it wasn't until looking into the situation with Selena that I realized at least part of my obsession, me personally, part of the reason that I love toxic female-female relationships in books, books about obsession, the reason that those are buzzwords for me, click, auto buy, add to cart, is because of my relationship with my bully. And before this happened, I had absolutely no idea, because interrogating why we like the things that we like is deeply uncomfortable, and it is that way because it is supposed to be. I realized that books like The Brutes and How to Fall Out of Love Madly and We Play Ourselves and Astrid Sees All and Permission, I realized that these books about obsessive female relationships, especially ones that have homoerotic undertones, are a way for me to continue to experience my own trauma. Hear me out. That being said, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. When I sat and really thought about why I love these books, I realized that yes, I read them because they feel familiar to me, and thus they feel comfortable. They are both a tool for me to dissect these kinds of relationships and know what to avoid in the future, but they are also a source of entertainment as well as a way for me to see myself in these stories. And I think that that's okay. I think that all of those things honestly are fine. The only thing that does give me a little bit of pause is that I often feel the way that we're engaging with these books, those of us who really love obsessive relationships in literature, feels a little bit glorifying. A lot of times that I've noticed there is a lot of reverence for these really awful mean girl characters in literature. And that is the part that concerns me. It's really interesting what kind of morally gray behavior we accept and worship. A really good example, I cited this in my Problematic Books by Black Authors video. I talked about Evelyn Hugo and how the way that she was morally gray is often romanticized. But then, for example, you will have a fat, black, grieving female protagonist who does things that are also morally gray, but her character is villainized while Evelyn Hugo's is elevated. And again, this is an example. I don't want to talk about Evelyn Hugo. I know people have very strong feelings about her, but what I mean is I'm just giving you guys an example of what I mean. And so what I've noticed is that these mean girl books, the girls in them are often idolized so much instead of being seen for what they truly are. And I think for those of us who really love our obsession books, our toxic books, our stalker books, all of those things, we need to really interrogate why we love them. But more importantly, if we're going to be recommending those books, we need to be speaking about the behavior in them in a way that is sufficiently condemning. Let me be clear, I'm not talking about Bunny and the Honeys. For example, let's take You by Carolyn Kepnes. Of course, this doesn't fit into the theme of toxic female-female friendships and relationships in books, but it is a really good example of how stalking and obsessive social media behavior is glorified, because Joe's character is constantly glorified, in my opinion, not so much by the author, but by the fans of the series themselves. If you guys have any examples of mean girl books where readers kind of seem to really glorify the mean girl character, do let me know down below. And so don't get me wrong, I am still going to continue to read and enjoy these books, but I think that I am going to be more intentional and mindful of how I talk about them, how I recommend them, and how I analyze those relationships. Because think about it, we live in a society that constantly glorifies bullies, especially girls bullying other girls. Girl hate is just so disgustingly normalized in our society, and that isn't to say that there's not a lot of female-female love and celebration. I think that now in 2023, I am seeing more female-female love and empowerment of each other than I've ever seen before.
And I love it.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't interrogate the harmful elements as well, because that's the only way things are ever gonna change. And so I think that, especially with the rise of like the hot girl summer trend and the rise of the book reader in 2023, the girl book reader, right? The rise of the book aesthetic. I've had private conversations with a lot of readers who don't fit in to the kind of stereotypical way that a hot girl summer reader is supposed to look, who feel like they're being left out of that conversation, who feel like because they are non-thin, for example, that their way of reader aesthetic is not being uplifted and boosted the way that tall, thin, very classically femininely dressed readers' aesthetic and platforms and content is boosted. And I hope that that makes sense. I'm noticing that there's a certain type of female reader that is being glorified over others. This is part of why Selena Gomez's bullying struck me as so absolutely relevant to the book community, because I'm not saying that girls in the book community are bullies. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that I do want to see more than one type of reader being uplifted. I do have concern about who gets to be visible in this community and who doesn't. What kind of girl readers and their content is seen as desirable and worthy. There is a direct line between girls in the book community who fit into what social media deems desirable and their popularity level. Again, this is something that I don't have all of the answers for at all, and I would really love community input. So if anything that I'm saying resonates with you, or if you're like, I feel differently, please comment down below, because I love videos that are a back and forth discussion. That's so important to me, especially when we're discussing social phenomenon like this. So since I have these books out, I've pulled them off the shelves, I might as well give a quick rundown of them for anybody who's not familiar. So Brutes just came out. This is by Diz Tate, and this cover is absolutely beautiful. The mystery and danger of being a girl, of feeling crazy and vulnerable and wild and wanting to run away and be someone. It's captured here across a landscape of nail polish and fire and sex, a sinister lake and the pink sky of Florida. It came with these really cool tattoos. I absolutely love that. So I'm really excited to read that. Let me know if you wanted me to do a female obsession book reading vlog. Comment down below and let me know what books you want to see in that. Maybe I'll do these because I haven't read a lot of these. We have How to Fall Out of Love Madly, and this is one that I have been really excited for. Once I saw the cover, I was like, yep, this needs to happen. So we are following friends and roommates named Joy and Annie, who are in their early 30s, but their lives aren't the way that they imagined. And then they rent their extra bedroom to Theo, who charms Joy with his salt and pepper hair and adoration of their one-eyed cat. Then Theo brings home Celine, the girlfriend he's never mentioned, who is possibly the most stunning woman Joy has ever seen, and she resolves to do whatever it takes to hold on to Theo, falling even deeper into an emotional hellscape of her own making. It just gets more messy and unhinged from there, and I love it. We also have We Play Ourselves. This is about Cass, who is a queer, promising young playwright in New York, but then something happens that causes her to be publicly shamed, and she has to flee to Los Angeles to escape, and she gets drawn in to her next door neighbor's world. Her name is Caroline, and she's a filmmaker, and she kind of creates this pack of teenage girls who hang around her house, and they're the subjects of Caroline's next semi-documentary movie, a Fight Club inspired by the violent classic. And it's basically very culty and obsessive, and I love books that have a filmmaking element. We have Astrid Sees All, which is a book that I constantly rant about. I did not love this book, but it is a female book that is toxic female friendship that is set in 80s New York City. And then we've got Permission by Saskia Vogel, and I really enjoyed this book. The ending kind of went off the rails for me. This is about Echo, who is a failing actress, and she's grieving the loss of her father, and she meets this dominatrix who ends up moving in next door, becomes wildly obsessed with her. It is very good. We have Love in the Big City, which I read last year. I will leave the reading vlog down below. It was where I tried a service where you pay them to recommend books for you, and I did a little reading experiment. I absolutely loved this book, so that is going to be linked down below. And we are following a man named Sang-young Park, who is a novelist. It's about him and his female best friend and roommate Jae-hee, and how they start these just wild sexual relationships, and there's a rabbit hole of madness. It's really, really good. Then we have Acts of Desperation, which I really want to read. And in this book, we are following an unnamed narrator who meets a magnetic writer and falls against her better judgment completely under his spell. And there's an all-consuming romance, but then he just very abruptly cuts her off. And so she starts stalking him on social media and will do anything, like no matter what, to get power over him and get him back. Then we have My Dark Vanessa, which is about a girl who is abused by her teacher in high school, and she maintains a connection with him as they get older, and he begins to get accused of sexual violence from other girls. And so it really looks at the Me Too movement, and it is a very, very difficult book to look at, but it is worthwhile. And then there is A Touch of Jen, which I also have not read, but this was a cover buy for me. It was the cover, and then it was what the book is actually about. So Touch of Jen follows this couple who starts spying on their neighbor. I think they do something to lie and get close to her. I forget what it is. They start stalking her on Instagram, and when they run into Jen in the flesh, she invites them on a surfing trip to the Hamptons with her wealthy boyfriend and their group. It brings them into an uncanny alternate reality, one shaped by their most unspeakable deviant and intoxicating fantasies. It is described as part social comedy, part psychedelic horror, and I'm really, really excited. So those are some books that do look at these themes. And as always, I love recommending Milk Fed for anybody who wants a very body positive female-female relationship. It is not a book about obsession. It is a book about two Jewish girls. I think that they're both bisexual who fall in love, and it is really, really beautiful. I love the way that it celebrates non-thin bodies, and I just couldn't end this video without talking about a book where body positivity is very critical and central to the narrative. This isn't a video where I'm gonna tell you that loving books about obsession is wrong, or loving bully romances is wrong, because that's just not what this is. I just wanted to talk about some things that I've observed, and also just be vulnerable with you guys about why I love these kinds of books. And I had no idea, like that was something I was absolutely keeping from myself. I think the part of me that loves these mean girl books is the part of me that hasn't fully healed. But I would love to hear down below if you have any recommendations for bully romances and obsession books and toxic female-female friendships that aren't glorifying. I would also love to hear any call outs of bully romances and toxic female-female obsession books that you feel are glorifying and do perpetuate this kind of stalking, impersonating, intimidation behavior, obsessive behavior as acceptable. Because one of the things that I have noticed about the dialogue kind of in defense of Hailey is that it's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal to stalk someone on social media.
That's actually a pretty big deal.
But of course there's levels to that, right? I'm sure many of us have creeped on an ex or looked at our ex-best friend's Instagram just to see how she is, to see what she's wearing, to see if she's happy because maybe we miss her a little. That is a very different thing from actual social media stalking, and that is something that I do not think is innocent. That is something that is absolutely worthy of interrogating. But that is going to do it for this video. I'm really, really excited to have a continuing conversation down below. I do have links to some recent popular videos that I've done if you want to check those out, but I also have a Patreon if you'd like some exclusive content from me. Check me out on Instagram. It is jesseonyoutube with an underscore, and I hope that I get to see you in my next video. Bye. Say goodbye to Akasha. Akasha. Akasha, say bye. Good girl.